Okay, so the sponsorship tonight is a Chus for Shlema from my shiur, Mordechai Zev ben Yocheved. For Shlema B'Kar B'Ser Shar Chayli Yisrael. So as I kind of, I guess I roped you in here by saying we were talking about Meiser, and it's a big popular topic. The truth is, I'm not sure if we're actually going to get to Meiser this week, because we have to first really discuss the mitzvah tzedaka. Background for the mitzvah tzedaka is important to then get to where Meiser comes from. You know, this is the funny mitzvah. People are like, is it a mitzvah? Is it not a mitzvah? Like, it's a mitzvah, but yet, like, I'm sponsoring Kiddush with it. Like, is that really Meiser? Like, what's going on here? As far as the Gedorim are concerned, of course, well, what deductions can you make from Meiser? We'll give a whole spreadsheet with a tax form and whatever, but we'll get to that. We're definitely not get to it this week. Next week we'll probably get more into it. I imagine it'll take about, it'll take 3 weeks to go through the Inyan. So,
Tzedaka or the whole?
The what? Tzedaka.
Just Tzedaka.
No, Meiser. No, Tzedaka with Meiser. Meiser is part of Tzedaka. No, not just Tzedaka. No, this week we probably won't get too much into Meiser. I made a shock already. Okay. So, there are Tzedaka is mentioned in a few places in the Torah. The main psukim of Tzedaka are found in Parshas Re'eh. We'll read it in, I guess, 5-6 weeks. Before you know it, we'll be reading Parshas Re'eh. We'll be towards the end of the summer. We're in Perek Tezvav. Guess I didn't like the tablecloth. He said it's cold.
That's what he said.
So hot.
Things are coming.
It's perpetually hot. Okay. Now, just one interesting thing is that in the chinuch, it's had to be a minchas chinuch share. In the chinuch, the chinuch has this mitzvah tzedakah of devarim, but the ikar halachas of tzedakah he does not put on this mitzvah. He puts them actually in mitzvah samach vav 66. That's going to be in Parshas Mishpatim, and he explains why. What's mitzvah samach vav? Is the mitzvah to lend money to an ani, to lend money to a poor person. And kesef talva asami. Okay, that even though it says im kesef talva asami, if you would do it, im is always a lashon of if. Im here chazal darshan is a lashon of tzava. That you have to do it, and he explains why. V'zoysa mitzvah shel halva. This mitzvah halva is yoser chazaka u'michayev. It is stronger and it is more of a chiyuv. I don't think it's more of a primary chiyuv than the mitzvah of giving tzedakah. Shemishin is galav v'noy dedarchol ben b'nei adam v'gila panav lishom. That's a very, very interesting word he's going to tell you here. Somebody who's already had his shver matzav known to people, and he's already started asking people for money. His aim dochkoi, the pressure and the darkness that he's in, is not as bad as Kamisha Dayan Lebala Isabush of Yarim Eichanisba. Somebody who has never come to that situation yet, and he's afraid, he has the anxiety over that he's going to have to come to start asking people for money. All his dreams and everything that he thought, his plan that he had set up for himself, for his family, is unraveling. That fear, the pressure, and the afela, the darkness that he's in, is greater than the ani who's already in the situation. Therefore, he says, there come times that if you could just give him a little help through a loan, not giving him the busha, not having experienced the busha of having to take money, but giving him that little bit of support through the havo will be greater. Maybe he's never going to have to ask for money. When you have rachmanas, I read this line here. When Hashem has rachmanos on him and gives him profits, he will pay back his lenders and live off the revachim that he got from it. Basically, what he's saying is that therefore the ikar ashari holds the ikar mitzvah tzedakah in the Torah, where the primary mitzvah is really in kasef talvas nami. It's really giving a halva to somebody is a greater mitzvah. Is more, he says, it's more yoser chazaka, it's stronger, u'mechayeves, and it's more of a chiyuv. Because the darkness that the guy isn't at that point where a halva can help him. You go to someone who's really an ani, you start giving him halva and money, it's not really going to do much for him. It might be a nice thing to do so that he feels better about himself. There's a guy who sits at a grocery market every week who owes me, hundreds of dollars by now. And every week that I don't give him it goes down a little bit how much he owes me and whatever. It makes him he feels better about it, that he's not taking as much money as he thinks and whatever. And he can slowly pay it off by me not giving him money certain weeks. It's even when I don't have cash, it's even better for him and he feels good about it. But I don't know if that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about someone who's in a situation where actually lending them money can get them out of it. The point is that there is a focus that he's giving that in tzedakah. You can have a primary focus on not just giving people tzedakah, but helping them get on their feet, helping them, teaching them to fish. Right? That's the expression. Not just giving them a fish, teaching them to fish. The Rambam says
that giving them a parnasa, isn't that even higher?
What do you mean by giving them? Meaning
giving them a higher parnasa, a better job.
Meaning more than just lending. Yeah, that's really where the Rambam comes in. He's the chinuch is coming from where the mitzvahs. He's just working with the mitzvahs that he has on the Torah. And there are two mitzvahs. There's mitzvahs halva, and there's mitzvahs just giving to somebody who asks you for money. He's putting this as the primary mitzvah. But listen, it's a pasuk in Parashat Mishpatim. Kesef talva zavid. You should lend someone who's in trouble. You should lend them money. That doesn't mean cash advance. I don't think. Maybe every time he gets it. It means somebody who's desperate. And I guess that is. That's exactly right. I guess. Yeah, that was the wrong word. You know what I mean? Look at that.
Rick, I can sponsor
unbelievable. I had the best of both worlds. It's like, the Ramban in Hilchos Matnas Aniyim, Perek Yud, I think it is. No, not. He says there are 8 different dargas in the midst of tzedakah. 8 dargas, and he lists them one by one, which one the highest one is. What is the highest darga of tzedakah? Zehamachzik b'dei Yisro. You're looking at which one now, I can't skip words. Zehamachzik b'dei Yisro, shemecha, v'noisin loy matana, oy halva, o oisin reshutvis, is somebody who holds the hand of Israel and gives him something, and that can allow him to get on his feet. That can allow him to bechazik his yad. Actually, that is the best way to give tzedakah, in a way where a person, you teach a person to fish, you teach him to do something that he can get to the point where he no longer needs people. That's the best way to do tzedakah. Otherwise, giving tzedakah is a beautiful thing. The next darga, he says, is giving it anonymously, where the guy doesn't know who he's getting from, and you don't know who you're giving to, and then he goes down there from there down to eight different dargas. But the highest darga, again, I'll pee this idea of the chinuch, is giving someone something that they can actually do something with and make something. So just something to.
Someone had to ask them for money. It's better.
Could be. I don't think that's their prerogative. Yeah, they have a lot of programs like that. By the Syrians, they're very into this. That they have a whole organization, has a whole mahalach how they do things. That they don't just give out money. They basically set up programs for people to get out of the problems that they're in. Okay. Now, then he says another interesting idea. The chinuch here, shiur shemitzah, sheratzo hakel Hashem wanted liyos beruyov milumadim u'regalim b'midas hachesed v'rachmim. He wants his creations to become rogil, to become learned and used to the midah of chesed and rachmim. Ki hi midah meshubachas. It's a great midah. Umitoich hechsher gufam. Those are strong words. For being machsher their guf, b'midas hatoivas, yiruim lekabel hatoiva. Where by being makabel these by being machsher our guf, by doing these midas, we make ourselves into klikibel to be makabel toiva from their Rebbeinu Shalom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to be made to us, but in order for us to be a klikibel who's right to accept the hatava from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have to first make ourselves into kelim that are rogil in this midah. Therefore, by being rogil in the midah of gemilas chasadim and in the midah of tzedakah, a person is machshir their guf. You're making your guf a klikibel to makabel hatava from their Rebbeinu Shalom. So it's not just about, beside this is a very important philosophical idea in the mitzvah, but it's also an important, it'll come up in the lumdus of the mitzvah that there's a chelik of tzedakah that's about giving the ani. That's the first thing we talk about, getting the ani as feet. But there's also a chelik tzedakah that has to do with us, that has to do with what it does to us in terms of being machshir our guf, and in terms of what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants from us as a society and as people, and to have that ability to be maktiv to others and do that is an integral part of the mitzvah here, as far as the chinuch is putting it down. Okay, that's as far as that mitzvah. Sorry. Now let's go to the mitzvah of tzedakah, the ikr mitzvah tzedakah. So the ikr mitzvah tzedakah is, like I mentioned, it's in Parshas Re'eh. It's mitzvah taf ayin tes in the chinuch. No, we'll actually leave this part of it. Top ratio Gimel. 613, right?
Maybe basically a little different.
Yeah. Okay. So let's. I'll leave the chidduch over there. Maybe we'll come back to it at a different point. But here are the psukim in Parashat Re'eh. When you have a poor person, this is the mitzvah of tzedakah. You have a poor person, in one of your gates. So the Emekdavar, the Netziv, Natali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, Shiv of Volozhin, he learns the pasuk as follows. He says that from one of your brothers means that he was an upstanding citizen. He had parnasa, he had a plan, and then he lost it. But achad sharechan, one of your gates, is the guy sitting outside shul in the morning, collecting. He's roaming from gate to gate. Though there are two different avyonim. So the pasuk continues. Lo ametz es levavcha. Do not. Hametz is a hard word to translate. We use it in alchet to say alchet shekarav beimutz halev. It's always referred to. It's used. It seems like always as referring to the heart, and it's a certain introverted way of doing. Like you're. It's self-contained within you when you close your heart and basically selfish essentially is what it is. It's a certain stubbornness. So don't close your heart. Don't close your hand. So again, the Emek Dover explains as follows. He says when it comes to the person who's he says the teva of a person people is that they're more likely to be merachim on someone who tripped up, someone who had a plan and who lost it. So they're more likely to give the tzedakah. So the Maisa is there, but mitzad the leiv in the heart, they're not maybe 100% lishma. So that's the first part of the pasuk. Your leiv, you should be doing it. You should not be closing your leiv. But the guy who's sitting outside the shul, there the tev of people is to close their hand and say, why should I be giving this guy at all? So on that, the Torah has to mitzav you to open your hand. The sikvas is yadcham from your brother. That's the ikr psukim, and these are the first psukim that teach us a lav, that there's a lav to look away. And the Rambam explains is that when someone is asking you for money, to just ignore it, to close your heart and to close your yad, is you are over a lav. Now, one of the big questions is going to be, that we won't get to this week, I don't think, but we'll get to it in future weeks, is, okay, well, what is the gather of the lav? Anytime? How much do there's got to be a limit to how much I have to give, how does lav apply? But those are just getting the psukim straight. There's first a pasuk that teaches a lav.
The lav is also levavcha. It's like, even if you're not giving, or you are giving, but you're not feeling bad, you're not having anything within your heart, is that part of is that part of lav, or that's...
Meaning what? Meaning in your heart you don't
care, but you're giving, or you do care but you didn't give. Is that two sides of the
same? The Rambam says when you give it b'sefer panim ra'os, when you give it with angrily, you hifsid zechusa, you lose your zechus. He doesn't say you're over the lav though. I don't think anyone says that. Listen, amitzas levavcha is where it gets to the point where you don't give because of it. That would be the ikar lav, but there is a focus on leiv when it comes to mitzvah tzedakah, which we have to discuss. It's important. So then the essay comes. You should open your hand to him. So interesting, just to point out, it said two things as far as the lav. It says don't close your heart and don't close your hand. And here, when it comes to the essay, it only says open your hand. It doesn't give you a positive commandment to open your heart. I think the idea is that the way the key, the derech to opening up emotions and lave, it's often a very difficult thing when your heart wants what your heart wants. But by actions, by mechanics is how you create the emotions, and by training yourself with certain things, you're constantly opening your hands, your heart will follow eventually. So Memela, as far as the essay is concerned, it doesn't tell you open your heart. You're not necessarily in control of that. But by being over the mechanics, but by opening your hand mechanically, you will come to that. Okay, so that's the lav and the lois. Now the psukim are very interesting. They continue. First of all, it says, what do you have to give? You have to give him whatever he's lacking, which is going to be brought halach l'maisa. That is, whatever an ani is lacking is what the pasuk says. So you want to know how much you have to give an ani? It's whatever he's lacking in his life. That's a big responsibility. So how do we deal with that? We gotta learn the halacha to see how that practically shtal zavek. Now, he says, the Torah continues, says, be careful. Maybe there's going to be something in your heart that's like, B'lial is a lashon of apikarsis. That's like connected to Rebbeinu Shalom. You're going to say, Shemitah's coming. You can have a bad eye in your brother. You won't give him. He will call out to Hashem, and you will have a chet. So Rashi says, what do you mean? Only he's going to call out to Hashem and say, this idiot did not give me money. Take care of him, and then you're going to have a chet. So it's mashma that if he doesn't call out to Hashem, there's not going to be a chet. You weren't the kind you're saying. That's what we're talking about. Someone who says, Shemitah's coming. I gotta gather as much money as I can. I cannot be mekayim it's a tzedaka. Sorry, see you later. All right. So that was wrong. He was over and say because the guy davens to Hashem and says, this guy, you know what this guy just did? He just shut his door on me. Now you have a chet. So Rashi says no. It says avada, the chet is there no matter what. Why does it say v'hoyu b'chet? Because it's more Hashem is going to come quickly, is going to jump very fast at the person who the ani davens about and says this guy take care of this guy. But it's very interesting that why is that like part of the pasuk? Why is it like the ani's tviyah against the guy is part of the idea here? Like either it is or it isn't. Either it's a chet or it's not. Like why are we getting involved in the ani's idea? But it speaks to that idea before we were talking about that that there's a lave part of this here. It's not just about the act of getting the tzedakah. It's about a certain korva between. It's supposed to be a way of building a relationship between Klal Yisrael, between different yidden, and you have people who are shiurim and people who are aniyim, and it's about building that properly. And when you do it improperly and you hurt the guy to the point where he davens to Hashem about it, where he cries to the Rebbeinu Shalom, this guy just hurt me, that's part of that's part of the antithesis of what tzedakah is supposed to be. It's not just the mice of giving the money. It's part of it, again, like I was talking before with the chinuch about being machshir your guf. It's about changing people and changing both the ani and the noisen of the tzedakah and doing something to them that's creating a beautiful society where people can rely on other people and work together. And when you don't do that, you do the opposite of it, that he cries to Rebbeinu Shalom over it, that's a chet. That makes it even worse. So it's part of the ikar. I pointed that it's part of the destroying the ani, in hurting him emotionally in his ego. That destruction is part of the chet of tzedakah. It's not just a separate thing. Nois and titanly, you should give it to him. You should not have anything bad in your heart. Because of this thing, when you give tzedakah, Hashem will give you bracha. Everything you do, everything you have, you will get a bracha by giving tzedakah. So now, just to address a couple of things here. So we talked before about how I was just talking about how the by mitzvah tzedakah befrat, the lave of a person plays a very crucial part of it. It's not just the act of giving tzedakah. It's not just about making sure money gets into the hand. It's the lave of a person is a big part of it. With the Rambam, to the point where the Rambam says a chelik of the mitzvah tzedakah is someone who gives up a simcha. It's passing halach l'maisa as one of the dargas that the Rambam gives when he goes through all the top dargas. I need that back soon. We can have that. When the Rambam lists 8 different dargas, he says,
says Levavcha a lot of times during this.
Yeah, that's what Pachas Mizeh says. One of the Dargas says is that you give him maybe not as much as he deserves, but b'sefer panim yafes. And Pachas Mizeh sheyitul ba'atziv, you give him not b'sefer panim rois. It's not the way where you give him angrily and like you throw it in his face, but you're sad when you give it to him. You're not smiling. You're not besimcha. You don't say thank you. Even if it's everything he needs, it's a lower darga. Yes, we give it to him back. Ever find a like it's not usually a chelik in mitzvahs. It's something in Svarim we'll talk about the idea of mitzvah gedelius b'simcha tamid and the simcha shel mitzvah. It's certainly a big inyan, but that it's a din in the mitzvah speaks to what by Kivat Av it says that if you give it to him,
if you give it to your parents with disgust,
right,
it takes away from the
okay, it's probably the same type of idea. That the point is that the mitzvah tzedakah is not just about the writing the check. It's about the lave, the creating that relationship with the ani that's important, and it's something that's very important as we think about when we give tzedakah, that it's not meant to be used as a tool to make us feel good and make us feel powerful and make aniyim feel bad. Adrabah, it's about recognizing a conceptualization of how we view money and how we view possessions in this world and how we are shutfim with Rebbeinu Shalom and everything we have. That's it. It's about a shutfus with Rebbeinu Shalom, and without that we have nothing. We don't really have anything without that shutfus with Rebbeinu Shalom. And part of recognizing that is by giving back to other people, giving back to Rebbeinu Shalom's world, and by giving back to different parts of it. There's a Mordechai Taisus brings a very interesting medrash. The medrash says that there was a story. A guy he used to give meiser from his field. His field was it made 1,000 kor every year, which is a tremendous amount for a field. For at least this size field. It was a big amount, but it made 1,000 kor, and he gave 100 every year. And he gave instructions to his children when he died that they should continue this, giving the 10 kor from the field, giving the 100 kor every field. And the kids ran the numbers, and they said, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem necessary to be giving so much. And they said, we'll cut back a little bit, and everything's going to be good. And suddenly, the field started producing only 100 kor. So when it was producing 1,000 kor, and he was giving tzedakah 100 kor, it produced 100 kor. So says the Medrash, Rebbeinu Shalom said the following. He says, me and your father, he said, you and I, we're shutfim in this field. Until now, your father was the balabas, and I was like the kohen. So your father got the 900. That's when someone owns a field, you get 9/10. And he gave 1/10 to me to Mitzvahs Meiser to take care of it. Now you stop doing this. So what happens? I become the balabas, and you become the kohen. So therefore you get 100 because that's how much Meiser you own. I'll give you your 100, no problem. You're the kohen now in the field. You're the ani, so you get 100, and I take the other 900. Right? It's a very sharp line, but the point is, the idea is that the whole inyan of tzedakah is besides for just taking care of aniyim, it's also an important part of our society.